Faithful Sidekicks. Today I'm going to be talking about Pandemic. Now there are a lot of flavors of Pandemic, and that is because this original game was such a strong title. In fact, it is by many considered to be the father of modern cooperative board games. In this game, you're not like building a deck or anything, you're collecting sets, I guess, because you are trying to cure 4 diseases. You're all working together, you all win or lose together. And the way you cure diseases is by collecting sets of cards that relate to that disease. For instance, I've got 2 here that deal with the Black Death, I guess you can call it. And I would need 3 more of those, and then I would have to turn them in just the right spot in order to cure the Black Death. I like the humor of that because I don't think that ever was cured. But nevertheless, you are also trying to keep the disease from getting out of control while you're working towards the cure. So there's several different things that a player can do on their turn, and there's handy cheat sheets, double-sided, to explain what those are. I will say that the 3 of the 4 on the one side of it are just the different versions of moving your pawn. And actually all of them are. And then this side tells you the other things you can do. The things you can do are move about the board. You can build a research station because that's these little, it's like houses in Monopoly almost. These little wood houses are your research stations. You build them at various cities to make it easier to travel, and that's where you have to go to cure a disease. There's also treating disease. Notice there's some cities on the board that have 3 cubes already. This is just the initial setup of the game. And anytime there's a city with 3 cubes that's in a horrible shape, and you need to remove those cubes, it takes 1 action to remove a single cube. You get multiple actions on a turn. And you can share knowledge. If, let's say, we were both in Madrid, I've got 2 player characters set up here, and we're both in Madrid, then my scientist, that's the character in white here, could actually hand Madrid over to the other player. But they have to be in the same city as the card that's being handed. So it's very tough to share knowledge. The game starts with everyone in Atlanta because that's where the CDC is located. The game doesn't actually tell you that, but enough people have known that it's become knowledge. And you start by infecting a certain number of cities. This is the infection deck. Looks all dark and dreary. And you deal out cards from the player deck. The player deck is mostly composed of city cards, and the cities are one of the 4 colors, because the diseases are just based on color. And then you get to start attacking the disease and trying to collect cards for a cure. Once, let's say I had a player, my scientist is going to go first. They need to deal with these things down, with the yellow disease is really rampant right now. So we would want to travel down this way. Let's see, each player gets 4 actions on their turn, and moving 1 space is 1 action. So this is, I've just hopped 2 spots, that's 2 action points. I hop a 3rd spot for a 3rd action point, and then I have 1 action point left to remove a single cube. And that's a whole turn. Then you would draw 2 cards, and it would be the next player's turn. If, however, you draw an epidemic, things just got more serious. This is the exciting part of dealing with this game, and that is that the epidemic means that the infection rate goes up. You take a new card from the bottom of the deck, and that city gets 3 cubes. 3 cubes is as many as any city can hold, anything above that, and there's outbreaks, and that's even worse, things happening. And then you just take that card you pulled and the discard pile and shuffle it. So the cities that have the cubes are the ones that are more likely to get more cubes. Shuffle these, put them on top of the stack, and then you draw your current infection rate, which right now is still 2. That means Kinshasa and Lagos each get another cube. And that's these two cities, which each have 3 cubes on them. So you get to see what an outbreak looks like too. An outbreak means that you're trying to add a 4th cube to a city that has 3. No city can hold more than 3, so now you take, and anything that city is connected to gets a cube of that disease instead. In this case, there's 3 cities. One of them would also be an outbreak. You have an outbreak, maybe you keep track of how many times you've outbroken as well. And now this city also outbreaks because you're trying to add a cube to it. So now this one is going to connect to anybody that it reaches by a line. It will not reinfect the one that caused it because it'd be an infinite loop and there's no way the game could proceed. So it only connected to 2 more. But that means we're already 2 outbreaks into a game that can only handle 7 total. If we ever hit 8 outbreaks, we all lose. If we ever run out of this deck of player cards before curing all 4 diseases, we lose. If we ever have so many cubes of a given color on the board that we don't have enough to finish putting those cubes on the board, we lose. The only way we win is if we cure all 4 diseases. So, as we like to say in our household, Matt Lecoq hates us. But that's okay, because we love the game anyway. So I also want to mention a couple of things. Number 1, components. The components are good, solid. You've got the cardboard tokens that are thick to note when you found a cure for the diseases and to keep track of your infection rate and outbreaks. They're just, normal cardboard tokens. The cards are... We've had this game for quite a while and these cards aren't really even showing wear, so they're doing a great job. The cubes are big enough to be a little bit of a nuisance when you've got, let's say, 3 cubes plus 2 player pawns plus a research station all in one city. That gets really crowded on the board, but that's the only complaint I would have about components. Another thing worth noting, and this is a really key element of the co-op board game, at least as Matt Lecoq designed it here, are player powers. Each player is bringing a separate special skill to the game. The scientist, for example, that's this pawn right here, is better at finding cures. So instead of requiring 5 cards of a particular disease type to turn in for the cure, they only need 4. So this scientist in this particular deal out has already got halfway to the curing the yellow disease. The medic is better at removing cubes from cities. And the great thing, again, component-wise, is that the cards that have the rolls on them are very clear about what their special power is. The board itself has order of play written on it. There's spots for all the things you need on the board. So you don't have to be like flipping back to the rule book to double check, wait, how do I do this? The medic is remove all cubes of a single color when you treat a city. So when the medic, the orange pawn here, comes to Sao Paulo, it's only 1 action to remove 3 cubes instead of 3 actions, which is wonderful when you are looking at all those cities that are just about to outbreak. There, in the original game, there's 5 separate roles in this 2 to 4 player game. Expansions have doubled or tripled the number of roles available to choose from when playing the game. And that's Pandemic. I bet there's more that could be said about it. It's a wonderful game. I will mention, in our desire to look for games that travel well, this box is not humongous. I've seen many larger, but it's still probably bigger than I would travel with. But they do make good use of the space. This box is not over large for the components that it needs to house. So good job, Z-Man Games, in keeping it a concise box. And yeah, there's just not enough good things you can say about this game. It's a solid title, and it has endured for some time and will continue to endure long after this review is done. Have a great day. Bye.